Loud. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us for our very first session of Community Corner with Daniel and Nabeel. Each week, Nabeel and myself are going to invite people on to have community conversations about things that are existing here in Oakville. So traditionally, Nabeel and myself, as community development specialists, we find ourselves primarily in the community, whether it be at food banks, community programs, or community organization partnership tables. We usually get a really good pulse about how things are happening in the community just by our interactions. Due to COVID-19, a lot of that has been limited. So we designed this virtual program as an opportunity for us to continue some of that dialogue with the partners and the residents who we have so much care for, and that we want to make sure our services are representative of their needs. So for our first session, I brought in some of my very dear friends from organizations across, and someone's already chatting. Catherine says, yes, a lot of people are not wearing masks. We are in a virtual space. So yes, so essentially I invited a lot of folks who I consider dear friends, so we can have a conversation first about how COVID is impacting inclusion and belonging. We try to spend as much time in this space in our roles as community development specialists with the town, and this is something that has become increasingly difficult. And I'll just sort of set the landscape of how traditionally things have been offered in Oakville. And across Ontario, is that we have, through our accessibility for Ontarians with disabilities, businesses across the province have an expectation to meet needs and accommodate those who have varying abilities. And since COVID-19, we have seen a lot of change in terms of the priorities of how we are providing service. And one of the inquiries we have through this series is we want to see how that's impacting folks' inclusion and sense of belonging. Because the places and spaces where you would go to affirm your identity, to belong, to enjoy are changing. And one of the inquiries was, we want to make sure that this is not disproportionately impacting those who have disabilities. So that's where our conversation will start today. And with us, and feel free guys, I know in traditional other virtual programs, we've been using the chat function. There's only a few of us on today. So feel free to unmute yourself and I'll introduce each individual we have on the call. So let's see if I can move this slide around. So first off, our friends from Project Autism. If you guys want to unmute, introduce yourself. I have a few slides of promotions that you guys have sent with me, so you can speak through as I'm showing you off.
Hi guys, my name is Judith.
Sorry, and my name is Aiden.
Aiden's always barking to something. But we're so happy to be here and we're happy to be a part of this conversation. We're a grassroots, we're community, and we believe in community helping community. So we've been here from probably the first week the announcement was made, and we've done over 550 free classrooms, activities, and programs.
Wow.
Thank you. And so I've left the website up on the screen here. So essentially projectautismcanada.com. I recently visited, and it's a calendar of events whereby anyone can join in. So it's run through Project Autism. However, all are welcome, or at least that's what reads on the webpage.
100%.
I'm sure that's the case.
Yes, 100%. I mean, we don't want to take away that a lot of our main source of our group and our volunteers do come from our autism community, and Aiden's one of the lead of our teen community that is represented, and but everybody, oh my goodness, we have all community.
Yeah, we have from young as 8, or actually I think 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8 to
65, 66. Yeah. So our age capacity changes. We're not very big on using age for programs, so we really don't mind.
Yeah, what we say is that youth is not just 6 to 18. It's from a baby all the way to you're like 100.
I think you did that to Daniel, and Daniel got your.
Yes, I said. As a youth, you could be either a baby or you could be an old man.
He says that. So
you can be 32.
Nice to meet you guys. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, guys. So just showing across the screen are some of the ways that you can stay connected with Project Autism. Next, I invited some of my dear friends from Community Living Oakville and Burlington. So I guess, Candace, I see you first. So if you want to introduce yourself from Community Living Burlington, that would be great.
Hi, everybody. And Daniel, thanks for calling me a dear friend. That's nice to hear. And I also want to say hello to the Project Autism gang over there, Aiden. I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity. I follow you guys on social media, so it's nice to be on this forum with you. So as Daniel said, I'm Candace Keem. I'm a senior manager at Community Living Burlington. I oversee our day services and our community development. I sit on and I co-chair the Halton Social Capital Committee with my dear friend now, Daniel, and Catherine and Carolyn, who are here as well. And we work towards promoting a more inclusive community. And we're being challenged now with COVID and how we make our community more inclusive dealing with COVID. So it's been a nice learning experience and a nice challenge to deal with and work with a great team that has the same goals in mind.
Great, thank you. And I guess Carolyn, you're next on the list. Carolyn from Community Living Oakville.
Hi, I'm Carolyn and I'm from Community Living Oakville. I'm an employment specialist. So we've been struggling with the whole COVID thing with people being laid off and people being nervous about working and so on. So we've had our challenges, but we've been able to pivot and get them through this, whether or not they've taken some time off or they've continued to work with some more good practices of social distancing and so on. But Community Living Oakville has done an amazing job, like Community Living Burlington, keeping our community connected. And so we actually have Hugo here that I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about Stay Connected and some of the programs that we've done, because he's the professional on this.
Thank you. Natural transition, Hugo.
Hi, yes. Yeah, so I mean, unprecedented times. How many times have you heard that? And because of that, the key thing that I think we've all identified is isolation and loneliness for the people we support. So like literally right in the beginning of March, as soon as we were getting the sense that things were not going to be like we had hoped, and a lot more people closing down things and people being at home. Fortunately for us, we have this technology. I can't imagine how things would be right now if we didn't have these video conferencing abilities, because it's been really amazing to get the people we support on board with the staff assisting them in some cases. And now a lot of them are very independent and they're on our Zoom sessions. We're doing things like telling jokes to each other, cheering each other up, talking about the news, talking about our feelings, like the Corona coaster of feelings that we're all feeling. And yeah, we've got some really great things going. We also have a virtual program called In the Loop Media because we can't do it in person like we used to. But that's going really well. We're sharing our Monday motivations, our Wednesday wisdoms. Catherine's got Catherine's Corner, which I'm sure she'll talk a bit about, and some of the things that she's going to do. We're learning how to use all the special features in Zoom so that way we can make our sessions interesting. We've got someone this morning was teaching the group sign language. Yeah, we're just kind of getting creative and trying to keep ourselves busy and learn things and entertain each other. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a comedy hour at some point. We've got so many comedians in the group now just telling jokes every morning, and whether the joke's good or bad, we're just laughing our butts off. So it's been pretty great. I mean, pretty great considering, I'll say.
Hugo, I like the Corona coaster.
Corona coaster, yeah, it's all those feelings,
Okay.
right? I'm pretty sure I grabbed it from somewhere else, but
Okay.
yeah, I've heard that, and I'm like, yeah, that really does explain how we're going through this right now. There's so many ups and downs, and don't even start with the election stuff. Like, people are on pins and needles right now, so we're trying to do everything we can to keep things positive and sort of focus on the positives. And yeah, there's some not so great stuff happening, but let's try to remember that we're all in this together and we're all going through different types of feels. So hopefully if we stick together and cheer each other up while we're going through it, everyone will be better off for it.
And thanks for bringing up In the Loop Media. So, Catherine, if you can introduce yourself and speak to In the Loop a little bit, that would be great.
Sure. My name is Catherine Thompson. I am in two different things, actually, In the Loop Media and the Social Capital. And I am on the secretary, Social Capital, but now I'm going to work on In the Loop Media right now at this point. In the Loop is actually what Yuko just said is true. It's like it's hard for COVID-19 for In the Loop. You can't do person to person. You have to do visual for COVID-19. It's hard, but you have to do it. So that's I'm trying to learn a lot of stuff for In the Loop, and it's like Monday Motivation, Wednesday Wisdom, Terrific Tuesday, Thought for Thursday. It's all different sessions in the Loop, and one is Monday, Wednesday, and one's Tuesday and Thursday. So we have a Church Street in Community Oakville. We have a station there for we have this microphone and everything, and you talk about a lot of stuff
For our podcast.
and all this stuff going on with COVID-19. So at this point, we can't do it right now. But for me, In the Loop, it's harder for me because I can't see my parents.
Right.
Since I did 2 weeks on vacation at the college and including Thanksgiving. And it's hard for me right now. You're on stage 2 now for Community Oakville. And it's hard for me. And tonight I'm going to my parents for dinner and all that kind of stuff. So but COVID-19, it's hard for me. It's very hard because I can't see my parents. And so I'm trying, Daniel.
It's okay, Catherine.
It's hard.
And Catherine, this is why we wanted to sort of start this conversation. Just for us working in community, we know that the impacts of COVID-19 are going to go far beyond the immediate prominent health impacts. That there are social impacts that kind of penetrate their way into all different types of sectors in the community. And we wanted to start with looking at this from an inclusion and belonging lens for this very reason. And that's why I invited so many of you folks here, is that I wanted to be able to highlight the things that are happening in the community that can allow us to still have things to be attached to and things to be a part of. So we'll come back to you, Catherine, because I think that you have a lot to contribute to some of the questions we have today.
Daniel, if it's okay, I just wanted to say, Catherine, I'm so honored to sit on a committee with you. And I know that you've been going through a lot with missing your family, like we all have. And you have shown so much strength. I would never have known how upset you are. You've been so professional during all of our meetings and so upbeat. And I really, really appreciate your strength during this time. Thank you.
And just to add to that, Catherine, I don't think we have met before, but I know so much about you because Daniel says so many wonderful things about your work that you're doing at the Halton Social Capital. And I can't imagine how courageous you are to be able to share what you just shared with us. And I think it's really important for anybody who's watching this to know that the impacts of COVID-19 has on individuals, and you know that these stories are real, and we need to give voice to them. And then also we need to do something about it, right? And I know we're going to talk about some of the cool things that we can do to sort of address all the challenges that COVID has to offer, but there's always more things that we can do. And the more that we listen, the more that we might be able to act, right? So Catherine, thank you so much. It is a pleasure for me to meet you. And you are, as Daniel described you, awesome.
Thank you.
And then there's just two more folks that we need to meet on the call. Thank you, Nabeel, for kind of taking a chance to speak and introduce yourself as well. So Greg, I've seen you log in. So Greg, I'll just fill you in. So Greg, we're looking to have a conversation today just about how COVID-19 has impacted some of our lives as it impacts to inclusion. And I thank you for joining. And I know you do a lot of work in the community too, Greg. So if you want, you can introduce yourself quickly.
Yes. Hi, I'm Greg Kozak, and I wanted to log on to see what this is all about.
Thank you, Greg. So if you hear any of the questions that you feel like you can speak to, please feel free to contribute. Brittany, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany. I met Daniel when I worked for the city of Burlington, and then I followed him over to Oakville. So I work in Oakville, mainly at the pools currently. So I look after Glen Abbey pool.
Thanks. Thank you. Brittany's an ally for us for sure within the town. And I wanted to make sure she was invited to this space because I think she may have some interesting insight just from being inside the town of maybe some things that we could do internally as well. So thank you everyone for joining us. I have really only jotted down 3 questions today to start this conversation. And hopefully by the end of it, we have a few takeaway items, and I will sort of invite everyone to continue the conversation with the Halton Social Capital Committee next week, but we'll speak to this a little bit later. So the very first question I have for today is, has COVID-19 actually impacted our community's efforts towards inclusion? Some of you who are in this call support individuals. Some of you are an individual that requires accommodations. Have you guys noticed things in the community that have really lacked or inhibited or limited our ability to enjoy Oakville beyond the obvious of social distancing?
If I may, Daniel, I think, and so those of you guys don't know me, I think my name is Nabeel. I'm a community development specialist at the town and a pretty big social media influencer. I think I have about 50 followers on my Instagram. So I think that's what qualifies me to be an influencer. But I think, has COVID-19 impacted our community's effort towards inclusion? I would say yes, right? But I think it's up to us to answer the question, is it towards a more positive, towards something that, you know, moves the needle in the direction that we want, or has it been the other way around, right? And sometimes candid conversations can help us figure out what we can collectively do to shift the needle to the spaces that we want it to go. Like, I know with a lot of programming not being in person, like that impacts inclusion opportunities. And that's an intense barrier, and that's an immense barrier. But, you know, one of the things I always look at is sometimes the capacity of community organizations to support is not sufficient to meet the needs of those who we're trying to support. But what happens when that happens, right? Like what happens to those residents, to those experiences? And I think the more we listen and the more we try to figure out what we can collectively do, I think we can overcome some of those barriers, right? So In the Loop is like a fantastic program that understands that while physical distancing is in place, like maybe the virtual platform might not be ideal, but it's still a platform that can do something. And so I'm so happy to hear that, you know, there is programs like that that's happening. And I would love to hear more about what is happening. I know Judith and Project Autism, 550 programs. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But all these things have synergies, right? Like things that we can do collectively to bridge the gap just a little bit more. And I would love to hear from you guys as to what is happening and what are your thoughts on this question.
Jude,
So I just
go ahead,
for your question. I definitely think it is having a negative impact on inclusion, but not for negative reasons, right? So a lot of the people that we provide service for are not comfortable wearing the PPE, the face mask, right? And so that, you know, that impacts on where they can go, where they can access. And I do understand that lots of places the guideline is if you can't wear it for a medical reason or something like that, you don't have to. But at the same time, sometimes, people don't know that. And so when you walk into a place and you have, some kind of disability anyways, and now you're not wearing a mask, some people might feel they're now being judged even more in our community, which is challenging for some to deal with. And then on the flip side of how we are trying to deal with our lack of inclusion and programming is, at CLB we have virtual programming, and we've made it was very important to us that our virtual programming was all live. We wanted to make sure that we still had that live interaction component, and although people are missing that physical one-to-one relationships, being able to see your peers on a big screen or a little screen, sometimes they're on their iPhone or their iPad, it's been really nice to see that people are, if they got used to the virtual programming platform, and now, it's they're telling jokes and they're communicating like they normally would pre-COVID times.
Sorry, I also want to address, you mentioned something there that I think Judith and Aiden, I have a question for you guys. The face covering and social distancing, with that being like, there's sensory challenges towards like asking someone to wear a face covering. Is that something you're hearing from the folks that access your services?
Exactly. And I think that's why consistency is so important. So initially we would have to find fabric around the house. So how we dealt with it is that we realized that this was an issue, and we realized that this was continually going to be an issue. So we tried to overcome it by the great part about communities, they talk about things. So what we did is we found first their favorite material. What was your favorite t-shirt? So we used that t-shirt.
So in a way, we used a
sensory things.
A sensory, but happy. Also a way of recycling.
Yes.
Rather than just throwing away.
Because we didn't buy masks. In other words, we dealt with the sensory.
We were gonna buy the bulk of fabric, but obviously the hospitals already had bought it all. And either way, I feel like they should go to the hospitals.
No, but from a sensory.
But from a sensory perspective, you're making it out of the t-shirts they love, so they love that shirt. So they'll love wearing that mask.
More inclined to wear it. So we dealt with it more from a community aspect.
Because a paper mask is very weird on the mouth.
And Aiden, you said
I know for myself, paper mask was very strange.
It can't wear the paper mask. So how we dealt with it is now, after 7-8 months, we've practiced it so much now that it becomes more comfortable. And those that we haven't, we've gone into now, creating other ways. So it's just a matter of, dealing with it, but not the expectation is not that they're going to wear it. It's the expectation is if I make it more comfortable and more for you, more about
more personalized,
more personal, you're more inclined to try it. And once you've tried one, you're more inclined to try the second time and the third time. So you'll be pretty surprised that some of them, the parents are saying, they're back in school and they're trying, whereas before they wouldn't have tried. So it is a battle, and sensory is not easy because there are so many different levels to sensory, and it can lead to meltdowns and more serious conditions. So we tend to deal with it in a fun way because we're a community. So make your own fun mask, paint your own mask. Like we come up with the weirdest things, but that's because we need to keep them engaged and trying. And so that's how we dealt with it.
And I guess the broader part of this question is the community being receptive to things accommodating folks that aren't comfortable wearing the mask, that maybe aren't, like social distancing is something like that is difficult.
It's a hard concept, Daniel.
That's right. You got it.
It's a hard concept. You're talking about a concept that when they see you, what's the first thing is the high five.
That's right.
That's the first thing. So,
that's right.
you reconditioning minds that have been conditioned in one way. So, that's a whole different conversation. Yeah. But community they're working really hard because as the conversation was, there's a lot of negative if you don't wear it. So a lot of families have received that already. So they're frightened themselves to go out of the house with the children, because then it becomes an attack on them personally. So even in the case of neighbors, they know that that child lives there and that child doesn't wear a mask and that child's going to infect us all. So you can imagine it's come into the neighborhood. So whatever we can do to create it. So, little things. Our families are really good. If we stay close to each other, we know that groceries, we can pick it up, we can drop it off. There are ways that we can help each other without pushing our community to such a level that we do have to deal with bigger issues.
It's almost like there's a new stigma attack. Like the community has spent so much time becoming inclusive and understanding and dispelling the stigmas that existed, and now there's new challenges altogether.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's always that joke that Karen is in every community, so that humor that there's always
there always is one person that always complains about, my child didn't get this, and you're not doing enough. And that's part of, that's a piece of the community.
So part of the conversation this week is mindfulness at PA. So everything we do is a mindfulness component, and one of this was to talk about the things that bug you. And what bugs them is when people stare at them because they're not wearing it properly. Like the one guy stopped one of our guys and said, "You need to put it 1 inch from your eyes, 2 inches from your chin." You can imagine.
If that happened to me, I'd feel.
You'd run away.
No, I'd either run away or just start just ball formation.
Yeah.
So they getting them to talk about their experiences, getting them to communicate how they feel means that we can address it and we can talk about it.
Sorry, Daniel, just a quick question. I know we're almost out of time, but I would love to hear from you guys in terms of your experience. Do you find that in this age of anxiety where people's anxieties are just very heightened, that there's less empathy to go around, or has the anxiety made it so that there's more empathy because they themselves are feeling a level of anxiousness that they might not have before, right? So is there some feel good stories to go along with the Karens of the world?
Oh, of course. There's good people and there's bad people. There's good stories and there's bad stories, but there's always a balance. There's always a balance.
So that's what we teach them. So you see, it's working.
Amazing.
We start young and we do teach them that there is negative and there is positive, because one of the hardest things is that change factor, and that this is what the world is in currently, is change. So yes, Nabeel, the sad part is there are those that are not going to be able to contain their anger, their frustration, and that's what we're seeing a lot in our world right now. But if listen, here's the thing. If you kept someone inside a box for several months and then let them out, they're not going to be the same as they were before. They're gonna be different. They've learned to co-adapt to not being around people. So when they're around people, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? This isn't what it was like in the box. So out of the mouths of babes, it's a different world in your COVID house to your outside house.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to keep that in mind. We're expecting people to create a certain environment at home, and then we expect that same environment to now be conducive to whatever changes we have made in our world. So yes, we're going to, Nabeel, deal with these. But I think if we open the conversation like today and we talk about it, and let's address it in community, let's talk about it.
Yep.
Right.
So, Nabeel, you had mentioned that we were almost running out of time. So we do schedule, and I think when I reached out, I might have mentioned we schedule our conversations to 12:30. I'm free to continue. I just want to make sure that people know that if they are leaving, it's not rude. Sorry, Catherine, Carolyn has her hand raised here. So Carolyn, if you had something to say, and then Catherine, I will get to you. You'll be next, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
In response, Nabeel, to some positive stories coming from the employment side, we've been able to get about 6 of our project search students who graduated in June, and one who is graduated from CICE from Mohawk. we were able to get them in at the hospital because all of the positions that were filled by volunteers were needed to be paid. So this is giving them, it's not a big job, it's a kind of a cut down job, but we've been able to get them employed, and now they're on the road. Now they have something that's not just a co-op or an internship, it's a paid job.
Amazing.
And so, yes, and I actually helped a gentleman get on with Ernst & Young. He was a dishwasher for 6 years, and that we decided that we were going to look at this COVID thing as an opportunity because he was exhausted. Every time he came home, he worked 40 hours a week and so on. I'm going to make this faster. Anyways, we worked on his resume, his interview skills, and so on. And now he's at Ernst & Young, but working from home, which is his dream job. Again, looking at it as an opportunity. And it's the same in Candace and Catherine. We should talk about our Halton Social Capital meetings between CLB and CLO and people that have same interests, trying to, again, connect through Zoom, which is difficult, but it's connecting. And we have one house at CLB and one house at CLO that are actually talking on Facebook, talking on the telephone, Zooming with each other after we had initially did the conversation, the meet and greet, the virtual meet and greet. So there are some positive things, Nabeel, but it's a struggle.
Right.
Another positive that I want to highlight is, you know, the people that we support in our sector. I'm humbled every day by their ability to adapt to things that people that are not on the spectrum have to, you know, we stress out about. But when we opened up our day programs just over a month ago, and one of the guidelines was that everybody, including participants, had to wear PPE mask. And we were unsure if we were being fair about that rule, would the people we support be able to keep that on, et cetera, et cetera. And let me tell you, we've all adapted together. And the people we support, you know, after they eat lunch, they don't need to be prompted. They know to put on their PPE. And so just to be, you know, not that we, you know, sometimes I guess we do, we need to be reminded that the people we support are so adaptable to the everyday happenings that go on in our community. And it makes me feel really proud.
Awesome.
Catherine, you had wanted to say something.
Yes, for Cabot's Corner, it's working like a progress right now for COVID-19, but myself and Carolyn are working on it together, and Hugo for In the Loop Media. So I'm going to do for the broadcast for In the Loop for Cabot's Corner, and that's In the Loop. And for the Social Capital Committee with Daniel, Candace, and Carolyn. And I'm going to do, it's called Cabot's Corner Starlight. And I'm going to work on a lot more of that, like Facebook, on the website of Social Capital, and especially In the Loop. So I was thinking, so that's a more common sense and great opportunity for all of us for COVID-19. So I was thinking for Cabot's Corner, I will do more like Facebook and the webpage for Social Capital and In the Loop. So I will do a broadcast on my own and work on that for Social Capital and In the Loop.
So that was a bit of a like sneak peek information. It does relate to our second discussion point too. So Catherine's going to be starting, and she mentioned prior to me that she's going to be starting Catherine's Corner, which will be like a virtual engagement. And Hugo, you can correct me, but it's almost like a podcast for Catherine that she'll be doing.
Yeah, definitely like that. Like she was saying, it's kind of in progress. So we're kind of working out what the content she's going to cover. I think one of the things she talked about, because you could see the puppy in her background, she wants to talk about puppies.
My biscuit.
Who doesn't love that?
Who
who doesn't go on YouTube and spends hours and hours looking at puppies.
And Daniel.
Yes,
And Greg wants to talk about his. Go ahead, Greg. Yeah.
Okay, well,
I'm going
can
to
I
leave, so
can I mention my
later on,
about like
the
what
16
Hugo and I
guys.
are working on?
Sure,
Okay,
Greg.
well, aside from Catherine doing her podcast, Catherine's Corner, I'm going to be starting up my own podcast called Kicking Back with Kozak, a radio show. I currently do Total Request Live every day around 2 to 3. If you want to join us, Daniel, on that show, it's where you get to request your favorite songs.
Cool.
And today we're going to be doing on Total Request Live, we're going to be doing like a Throwback Thursday type thing.
TRL, man, that is a
throwback. TRL.
It is.
Well, like
bringing it back.
Okay, and like I really enjoyed like sitting in on the meeting and like kind of getting ideas, because I'm gonna be I'm also with Catherine on In the Loop at home too. Yeah. And so Hugo, Catherine, and I are going to be doing our Catherine and I, we're going to be both be doing our own podcasts. And, Daniel, like, do you have Facebook?
I don't know.
Because like, I was going to say, like, you could add me on Facebook.
Yeah, well, I got rid of the social media game, man. But
Why?
you can, you know what? That's so personal. I was getting too sucked in, man.
Daniel's he's a very popular guy.
Greg.
Yeah,
I'm
too popular.
I'm trying to live in the moment. But so Greg, and if you guys don't mind, I'll pull it to our second discussion topic, which we've really have been discussing, is how COVID-19 has changed the life of the way we all belong. Is that like we're having to find these ways to connect. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I used to play poker with my friends on Friday night. Now we play virtual poker through Zoom. And so I can hear already that, with Catherine Corner and with TRL, with Greg Kozak, like there is a change in the way that we are all kind of belonging in community. And obviously with Project Autism as well, offering 550 virtual programs. Apart from virtual engagement, anything else you guys want to share about how inclusive connection can come back to community? Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Actually, and I also want to tell you that on December 4th, my friend Andrea Ciel, she's doing a little Christmas party over Zoom, and she invited me to it, and I'm going to it over Zoom.
Nice.
And can I tell you some of the other things I did over Zoom during our morning discussion? Once back in May of this year, May 14th, 2020, I actually got to meet and interview Dr. Temple Grandin.
Oh yeah, I know you're a big fan. Yeah.
Yes, because like you know how I'm a big fan. Like I have a lot of her pictures and videos posted on my Facebook page. And we can pull back the curtain a bit. So we were kind of talking about other ways to belong in the community. So one of the things that Greg and I were involved in a few weeks ago was like we did like a virtual like guys chat. And that's where Greg was talking about like Temple, is it Temple Grandin? Temple Grandin, yes.
That's right, yeah, which you were a big fan of. But yeah, like those are the type of things that are like everyone's having to do.
And I hope to one day, go to Fort Collins, Colorado and meet her in person.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to just mention, I think your question was going in the route of what are other ways we can belong in the community, just not virtually.
Correct, yeah.
I just wanted to mention that what we've noticed is that we're missing the in-person contact, but there's been a lot of positives that's come out of the virtual engagement. And what we've seen is that some of the people that we provide service for, who they're challenged getting out on a regular basis to either rec and leisure activities or programming due to different reasons, they're actually now more engaged with people because of the virtual platform. So it's been really, it's been an unexpected highlight that we've been able to discuss in our meetings.
That is cool. If anyone else has anything in that area, please feel free to chip in and add as we wrap up here. But the last thing I wanted to ask is really what we, and I mean like the almighty we, what we can all do to kind of promote the continued inclusion and sense of belonging for people of, you know, varying abilities, varying needs, really just everyone, because our community by its nature is a place where all of us have to come and unite. So how can we do that now? And maybe because you've all kind of had the experience to live in the COVID world as I have, what do we got to be doing? What do we got to be changing about ourselves to be more inclusive now?
So one thing I like what you just said there is we're getting told a lot about what we can't do, but I think it's really important to talk about what we can do and just focus on that, because then we can kind of get to it as opposed to, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that. Let's talk about what we can do. We can communicate virtually. We can do some things at a social distance. You know, I think that's important to kind of really focus more on what we can do as opposed to what we can. We're constantly hearing what we can't do. And well, that leaves me sort of, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Nico, that's a really good point, and something that I need support with is that, yes, I've been talking a lot about the virtual programming and the success there is with that. However, there are a lot of people who are just not into it. They don't like sitting, you know, in front of a computer and talking to their friends via computer, et cetera, et cetera. So one of my struggles is finding programming activities for people that just don't want the virtual piece. So yeah, so this is a great format and platform to talk about that and hopefully problem solve.
Oh, one little thing I just heard from someone this morning. They went into Toronto on the GO train and they said the GO train was virtually empty. Yeah. So maybe a trip on the GO train might be okay right now. I don't know. As long as you're following all the masks and social distancing. But yeah, apparently it was pretty much deserted. It was like 5 people in one car.
My sister-in-law takes the GO train to Toronto and she'll send me pictures of herself as the lone person on a cart.
Yeah, interesting times.
Yeah, definitely. And so if I'm noting the time now is 1:45 and I only asked for a half hour of your time. So first off, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us. And I kind of expected that this conversation would be more than just 3 questions, 45 minutes and intros. But the one thing I want to leave from the town's lens, if there are things that the town of Oakville can do, like this is the time to challenge us to do that, right? Like if we can find a way to be more inclusive, improve our services to accommodate in a time where it seems like accommodation is secondary, please feel free to challenge us to do that. And, you know, that's something where Nabeel and I and Brittany kind of welcome the opportunity, and strategically, this would be a time where we have flexibility more than ever to really change the way that we offer services. And I guess I wanted to, I mentioned I would get to this before we wrap up. So the Halton Social Capital Committee, which many individuals on this call are members of. So we are going to be hosting a broader community discussion with from across the region. So we'll be inviting our partners from our 4 municipalities and our regional governments, as well as members in the community to join us for a conversation on Thursday evening. On November 12th, just to really discuss inclusion amid COVID-19 beyond the lens of just us here in Oakville, but from a service delivery sector across all municipalities and regional government. So I invite you all to join there, and hopefully this will kind of serve as a kickoff too. I will, along with Candace, be chairing that conversation. So we'll take some of the learnings from today and try to build that into a further dialogue. And hopefully this can remain a space where we stay connected and become sort of, you know, problem solvers together as we try to navigate this. Anyone else have anything they want to say before we wrap up? No? Thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, we're open for business for anything that anyone invited on this call wants to do. We are 100% there for you. Thank you.
Also,
everyone.
if you guys have any out of this world idea, as you can tell where I am, just feel free to reach out to us and let us know.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I've got a few.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, Hugo.
I look forward to hearing you.
But for now, I just want to say, way to go, everyone in this space here
Yeah.
for providing opportunities for people. I'm a huge Project Autism follower as well. I think I got the special badge because I follow it so well. And of course, Candace, it's great to see you. I haven't seen you in ages, and nice to meet you, Brittany, and everyone else here. I think together we're doing some amazing things, and we'll ride through this. We will get to the end of it. And
COVID coaster, right, Hugo?
COVID
the
coaster.
Corona coaster,
Oh,
yeah.
Corona coaster.
Yeah, we're gonna have our ups and downs, but we will get through it. And everyone here is definitely working hard to make sure that we're distracted while all that negative news is trying to infiltrate our minds.
Thank you.
I'm with
Thank you
you.
for that, Hugo.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.